craziest thing that happened when you were in the wild?
Yeah, I wrote that down. I wanted to know about dangerous situations that you might have been in.
You know what? The crazy thing is that we were living off the land, but in harmony with the land, right? So with nature.
It was just normal.
It was just normal.
Yeah.
Right. I think in 92 or 93. No, later than that. What year was the ice storm? There was this massive 98. Okay. Way later. I was like 92. I was born in 91, so I wouldn't have remembered. In 98, I remember I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
We had this crazy ice storm.
Yeah.
Right. It was like a disaster in the entire province.
My father
of Quebec.
lost half of his trees, of his maple, because of that. Yeah.
Power cut everywhere for weeks. For weeks, and like
thick snow.
Thick
snow.
Like there was this thick of ice on trees, like even thicker than that on trees.
Massive power lines were coming down.
Yeah.
Like it was this disaster. It's like
wild.
you read about it in the. You can find so many news articles about it. It was
one
like
of the biggest natural disasters in Quebec.
Yeah, exactly. So the crazy part is that people ask me like, was there something that was dangerous?
So you didn't change anything, no?
It didn't change anything for us. We were putting our ice skates on, right? And because they couldn't open up the road, we were without being able to get out of the property because the road wasn't open. It was iced up. The whole region was iced up. So we were the last ones to get the service, right? So I remember going and skating on the road and having so much fun because it was just a normal day in the life of. We didn't have to do anything, right? Yeah. You're just there,
you didn't need the power. You don't need the power. It didn't change anything for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Wild.
So it's crazy. You stored the firewood for the winter, so you're good. You're heating with wood. We still had at the time no water, no running water, so you still had to go and get the water from the
creek,
stream.
And the river.
Yeah, exactly. But otherwise, it was. Nothing really happened.
What did you conserve water in?
This massive barrel. So it was like, it was this massive barrel on the second floor of the house. So that way there was pressure, right? And then there was actually a plumbing system. When I don't remember that much, but when I was very young, we didn't have the barrel on the second floor and that plumbing system in the house. We just had one barrel. The water would come in. It was sanitized and whatnot. You can wash it with bleach, the same way that they wash wells in Canada. You can bleach the well and then you run water through it. And the water was conserved in that, and it was filtered. So we had a filter for our drinking water. And when I was very young,
did you have to boil it or no?
No, we didn't have to. No, never.
See?
It was very fresh water.
See?
Very, very fresh water.
Yeah,
there are some, in Wakefield, about a 30-minute drive from Ottawa. I go there sometime, and there is this running stream on the side of the road, and they have installed
the best water.
They installed these pipes. It literally just picks up the water from the stream.
Yeah.
And it's considered potable water, and everybody stops there on the side of the road to get fresh water.
There's
it's the best tasting water
There's
ever.
a place like that near my dad's house too, at like 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
What's the name? I think Dorlet or something like that. Whatever.
It's crazy. You don't see that a lot, but there are these places and this water. Because what happens is it comes, we have this chain of mountains in Canada. It's called the Bouclier Canadien. I forget what it is in English.
Yeah, whatever, like a Canadian Shield.
Canadian Shield. That's exactly it, actually. It's a Canadian Shield. So you have the Ottawa Valley, which essentially, farmland and the valley. Fort Coulonge, where I was from, is actually in the valley, but right before you go up the hills. And then my parents, you went up the Canadian Shield. It's actually a big chain of mountain. You have most of the ski hills on that chain of mountain and a lot of stuff, right? It's really like,
Why is it called the Canadian Shield?
I'm not sure because it goes. It's very, very long, and it's basically farmland type, valley type, and then all of a sudden, for like hundreds of kilometers, mountains. It's like this sort of like mountain range that sort of separates in a straight line.
And on the other side of it, it just continues.
It's like it's just.
It just continues, and then you're basically in the very hilly terrain all the way to the North Pole. So we lived. My parents live essentially. You literally, the highway would go, and then you'd see this big hill, and then you'd have this little dirt road that went up, and it was a 30-minute drive up the road. You were gaining a lot of elevation.
So your parents lived up that
exactly,
hill.
and that's why the water is very fresh, right?
Yeah.
It's because it's coming down. So same thing with Wakefield near Ottawa. It's the same Canadian Shield. So essentially, it's the same water, right?
Yeah.
It's all coming from up north, from lakes that are higher up, and they sort of go downstream. And then a lot of it goes through the mountain, like underground. There's a lot of underground water. And then when
It's a beautiful
Yep.
place. It's absolutely. Even Wakefield is super nice. Our friend Kyle developed properties over there.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of construction projects over there too. And it's super nice in the mountains, but it's kind of the last place where it's developed. Wakefield.
Exactly.
The highway didn't even go that far a couple of years ago, and
Well,
now it goes up to Wakefield, and then further. I don't think there's anything.
No,
in there.
it keeps going. What happened is, like, even where my parents are located, it became sort of cottage country, right?
Okay.
As you know, a lot of people from Ottawa even go up to Fort Collonge, that small village. It's an hour and a half drive. You know, if you have a cottage within an hour and a half drive,
It's not that far. It's like Tremblant in Montreal. It's very, very manageable.
It's very manageable, and also
an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, and because you have the Ottawa Valley and then the Canadian Shield, where all the lakes and the rivers are like past that point, then areas like my parents are being developed.
So it's growing a lot now.
It's growing a lot now. Yeah, so it's not as far out.
Because
right?
2 hours about the cutoff for a very easy to do. A cottage in this area, because a lot of people in Montreal too, there's 2 hours up, 2 hours down. That's about where you're gonna have the frame for the cottage for the very wealthy. You're gonna be because you got to think about it. You're gonna leave. Let's say you leave you finish work around 5-6 on Friday night or 4 or whatever. Then it's manageable getting there not too late. On Friday night, you spend the weekend over there, and then you can come back Sunday afternoon, and then you can work in the city during the week. So 2 hours is about the cutoff for a nice location.
Totally.
But longer than that, you lose a lot of value.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, when I was a kid, I remember there were a few cottages in the area. So we had our first neighbors. Well, we called them the neighbors, but it was essentially a cottage. And they were 1.5 mile away from us on a lake, because we weren't on a lake. It was the first one, the first cottage.
Was it?
Yeah. So the power lines didn't go all the way, right? You know, they still don't have power lines today, so no electricity. They have solar panels now, but but nowadays it's developed so much that, you know, because what happens? They live up this road, and the road keeps going pretty far, and you know. If you go up and up and up, and they've developed a lot, built a lot of cottages. So when we were kids, like there was barely any traffic. You know, sometimes there would be an entire day without a car going by. Right. Now when I go visit my parents, you know, you'll have like, you know, sometimes like 50, 100 vehicles going by on the road. It's still very quiet, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy, like 50 to 100
That,
vehicles.
it makes it makes so much more sense now that you said the noise in Mexico, because you lived in Mexico for a year. You were very sensitive to all the noise because you grew up in such a quiet place.
Absolutely. Well,
that's why it's crazy that he built you know, businesses and like something like that, like to the level, because he really literally started at nothing. He couldn't. You know, that's why I'm so impressed with Dan, especially. Dan couldn't even email.
Yeah.
He almost quit. He almost quit being an entrepreneur over how to send a fucking email.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't set the CRM up.
Yeah.
And I showed him how to open a Gmail account or whatever that was in 2011 or something like that. And then we figured out I showed him. It's like very easy, Dan. You know. I'm sure you can figure that out.
It's very crazy because, like, you know, even with the people I went to high school with, including Dan, a lot of people that I know of, I don't necessarily talk to them anymore, or maybe I still see them on social media and whatnot, but a lot of people that grow up, you know, further away, you know, including yourself, Dan, and whatnot.
But for some reason, Dan is the one that impressed me the most, because I think he started very, very rough.
Yeah.
You were way more polished than him. When I
Dan was a true lumberjack.
Holy shit. Holy shit!
Dan was a true lumberjack,
and now he looks like one with the big beard, and he's gonna need to shave though.
But you know what? It's crazy because so much ambition, and he runs such a good, large,
everybody loves him,
profitable business.
He's
like
amazing.
You know, he has the he is the painting, cabinetry, refacing and cabinetry painting business in the Ottawa region. He's the largest company at the moment. I don't even know how many employees he does. He has, but I know he runs in the $5 to $7 million of revenue a year. It's crazy.
Yeah,
and it's from being.
Yeah, he's super profitable too.
Yeah, from being
super
from
profitable.
the woods.
Everything is organized. They systemize everything. So he's been growing very, very slow and very, very steadily over the last 5 years. And to process to be able to every operation in the business is processed.
Yeah.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency. Yeah. Yeah, so it's been quite the journey. I have to say, quite the journey. But there's so many stories. One of the good ones that I like to bring up, and a lot of people like to hear about it is just building shelters. That was like, I've always been good in construction. I worked, leaving my parents, and I started in different businesses, but I did home renovations for many years. I have this thing. I understand how things are built. Very good at understanding how things are put together, and I had that from a very young age. So I started with my two brothers. We started building winter shelters and staying in very, very cold temperatures in the coldest months.
Yeah, because you outside, you go out in the winter, whatever the season, and you can survive.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, winter shelters. It's. Again, it's sort of like you have to understand how it's built, but once you understand how it's built, it's very straightforward. And then for sure, if you're in a survival situation versus if for us, we got to practice it, but still, we were still comfortable, right? We didn't need to do it. We just did it because we wanted to have fun. So it's sort of this thing where, I've done it so many times as a kid, learning and having fun, right? And I think that's the best way to learn things. It's like, if you're having fun, doing it, you're enjoying it. You'll learn, you'll experiment.
We need to rethink how we teach things.
Yeah,
and especially to boys, especially because it's impossible to stay still for a few hours.
Yeah,
we're talking, we're having fun, but I'm fucking moving. I'm like, I'm staying loose. I can't stand sitting still.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the same. Yeah, got to do something. But again, I don't think that's everyone though. I think there's a lot of people that are very, very good. Like, I think it's a personality thing. I'm very similar to you in the fact that I have a million ideas and I like to create or to build things. But some people are not very good at creating and developing or building things, and they're very good at doing one thing very, very well. And for me, I always say, like, I have a hard time doing the same thing for more than 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's like sort of my max, max amount of time. And even there, I like to do 2-minute tasks, 3-minute tasks. That's what I perform the most. I can do 1 million tasks in a day, but if you ask me to sit for like an hour and do something, like, that's hard. That's hard.
That's why I cannot do administration.
Like when I got my realtor license, that was the hardest thing I've done, in a long time.
Harder than building shelters.
Harder than building shelters. Yeah.
So the way I learned real estate was I followed this guy Pat. He was selling about 100 homes a year in the team when I started to work, and that's how I learned, because I stayed super, super close to that guy, and because in the course or whatever, they teach you, but they don't teach you really how it works, right? They teach you how to fill the paperwork and the reason why it's kind of important, but they don't teach you exactly. There could be a better job in teaching you the reality of what it is to be an agent, what it is like, how do you get leads, how to and then not by people that are teaching, like by people that are actually doing the work and that people that are actually successful doing it. I think there's a lot of things that we need to rethink, especially when we teach like some trades or business or marketing or whatever. Like at university, at college, when we had those professors that they were teaching business, but they were teachers. They were not. So that's why I wanted to quit college when I was doing the painting, because I couldn't relate at all with everything that they were teaching in business school, because that's where I was. And then I finally thank God I finished it. I just finished. I just were able to do social studies with economics minor. But yeah, it was so far up in the sky in university compared to the actually trying to organize and managing and finding and figuring it out.
Well, I think that they teach you, just more of a way of doing things.
Or they teach you what I felt like. I felt like it was just how to be an employee in a big corporation. I feel like.
Yeah, and that's most of what the world needs, and that's the reality, right? The world also need entrepreneurs, but I believe in balance. I think that natural balance, like being an entrepreneur, is so hard because if you fuck it up, it's 100% on you, right? So that's the harsh reality of entrepreneurship, and I think that natural balance in the entrepreneurship world is very important. If you're not going to be a hustler, if you're not going to do things the right way, if you're not going to aim to be the top in your field, or if you're not going to strive towards the best, you're going to automatically get out. You're not going to be able.
But you need to be a hustler up to a certain point. Then you cannot anymore, because then you're never going to be able to grow, and then you're never going to be able to pass this level of doing everything yourself and whatever. So you have. I think that. So then if you continue to hustle, past a certain point, then you're just going to run your business into the ground.
Exactly.
So delegating the work is what you're saying.
Yeah. You can only grow at a certain speed as well, right? There's a certain. That's the reality of entrepreneurship is crazy, because you're at a certain level, and if you want to grow to another level, you have to take a certain step, and you have to change everything. So you're always learning and you're always growing. But the interesting part is if you surround yourself and you get good coaches and mentors and whatnot, then things will really work out, right? Just like fitness or anything else. Like first thing we did, when we started our team in Ottawa this year, Dale and I, in January, is we hired a coaching company for it, and we have our bi-weekly meeting, and we're just following the system. Someone's figured it out. So
can you explain that a little bit more, because everyone's hearing this for the first time, exactly what you do going from the woods to what you do now?
Yes.